Goeiedag, good day, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world. Now, there's something that I want everybody on my channel to understand about how policy is written in South Africa. It's not written by little think tanks involving the ANC ministers. It's written by non-government organizations, basically. You got people who are not elected. They're not even from, a lot of them, not even from South Africa, who are sitting in offices around the country producing policy documents which are then fed to the parliament, and because they're kind of like cozied up to the ANC, these policies are then put out to the parliament and then adopted. So what I'm saying in effect is that where South Africa has been taken is really only partially to do with the ANC when it comes to policy. Remember, there's a big difference between corruption and policy. The ANC government is a corrupt gangster state as much as they can. And part of that is that these ministers are too bone idle to actually have their own think tanks to set up policy. They depend on NGOs or non-government organizations to send them policy documents which they then steer South Africa down. And a perfect example of that is Professor Ruth Hall from an organization called PLAS. It's an NGO. PLAS in English means farm. And most of her funding comes from George Soros of the Open Society Foundation. This is all publicly on the record. You can go and check it out. She single-handedly is responsible for writing the expropriation without compensation policy, which has been tabled in Parliament by the ANC government. This is how the NGOs in the background are actually pushing South Africa in the direction they want to go. It's nothing to do with the ANC. The ANC are just sitting there, cleaning up corruption, just got all their mates in there. It's like a feeding trough, they're just cleaning out. And the policy, as I said, is coming from a third party, which is the non-government organizations, largely controlled by George Soros and the Open Society Foundation. They're the people who are actually writing the policy that you hear about that's coming out in the South African government. Now, I mentioned Professor Ruth Hall and the expropriation without compensation policy that she writes for the minister, who then just goes and tables it in Parliament. Now, what about black economic empowerment? Every single financial expert will tell you keeping BEE in place post the lockdown is the craziest thing that South Africa could do to its economy. It's absolutely ridiculous. But guess what? Let me add a bit of meat to the bone. Remember, this is policy not written by the ANC, but by these NGOs spread across South Africa, and their contacts within the advisory bodies of people like Cyril Ramaphosa. The Department of Employment and Labour will amend and enact changes around South Africa's employment equality regulations to address issues around equal opportunities and inclusion. Presenting the department's annual strategic plan to Parliament on Thursday, 7th of May, Employment and Labour Director General Thobile Lamati said that includes a push for further transformation changes at senior levels across South African business. Citing the government's 2018-2019 Employment Equity Report, Lamati said that black Africans currently constitute 23.2% and 40.2% at the senior and middle management levels, as reported by designated employers. He said government will now push for at least a 2% annual increase in the representation of black Africans in senior and middle manager levels. He added that the Department of Labour plans to set targets to bring this to at least 50% within the next 5 years, that's 2024. Now remember, this policy has not been written by the ANC, it's been basically written by George Soros's Open Society Foundation. That's what's actually driving the policy in South Africa. But these are the front men who just pretend that, they've been involved in it. Lamati said that the department also plans to amend the existing Employment Equity Act to help it meet these transformation targets within the same time frame. In July 2019, Labour Minister Tulas Nkesi announced a planned amendment bill which will regulate the setting of sector-specific employment targets to address the gross underrepresentation of blacks, women and persons with disabilities. It will also ensure that an employment equity certificate of compliance becomes a precondition for access to state contracts. You get that? This is how they are forcing businesses in South Africa to abide by their racist, racist policy. And you know who the biggest racist in the whole room is? George Soros and the Open Society Foundation. Anyone who works for the Open Society Foundation around the world, and in particular in South Africa, where affirmative action and race-based employment policies are being pushed out, those people in South Africa who work for the Open Society Foundation are closet racists. They are the racists. And yet they're the ones who are pointing the fingers at other people as right-wing racists. This is how absolutely screwed up things are. And of course, because the mainstream media is fake, and of course they have the agenda of the left, they will never report on what I'm telling you right now. And I encourage anyone in South Africa who's sort of saying, okay, maybe this is true, maybe it's not, go and do your own research on who's actually writing the policy for the ANC government. You will be surprised. Anyway, let's continue with the article. A draft version of the bill published at the end of 2018 indicated that the changes being made were to speed up transformation in the country. Cabinet approved the submission of the bill to Parliament in February. Cabinet said at the time, the amendments will empower the Minister of Employment and Labour, in consultation with sector stakeholders, to introduce enabling provisions for the setting of sector-specific employment equity numerical targets. In other words, racism. It also reduces the regulatory burden on small employers. The bill promotes equal opportunity and fair treatment in employment through the elimination of unfair discrimination. Well, we know that's a load of BS. But just the message I'm giving to you guys is that when you hear about this policy coming out and you can see how racist it is, remember the people, the hidden people, those black shadows behind the scene who are actually writing the policy are largely associated with George Soros and the Open Society Foundation. This policy has nothing to do with the ANC. They couldn't formulate a simple page of, let me go and do this or let me go and do that. They are completely incompetent. This policy is being written by NGOs who have absolutely no reason. And in fact, it's illegal for them to be involved in policy writing because they are largely from outside South Africa. Please remember to subscribe to be kept informed. Ring the bell for the updates. Please like this video. Please share this video. And above all, please stay safe. Bye for now.